Captain America Brave New World is one of the worst Marvel movies of all time. It's a horribly written, horribly directed, horribly acted, and horribly edited disaster of a movie. The plot is so incomprehensible that it's difficult to explain what the movie's actually even about. This is the best summary I can muster. Isaiah Bradley tries to kill Thunderbolt Ross, who's the new president of the United States. Ross survives and Bradley's imprisoned. Sam Wilson, the new Captain America, works to try and prove Bradley's innocence, and in the process, begins to uncover a conspiracy targeting the new president. Sounds interesting, huh? It's not. The film is so convoluted that the storyline focus kept changing. First it was about Sam recovering stolen adamantium. Yes, the stuff that Wolverine's claws are made from. Remember that Celestial that died at the end of the Eternals? The movie Marvel hasn't mentioned in 4 years? Well, it turns out the body was made of adamantium. Then the movie shifts to Isaiah Bradley turning into a sleeper agent and trying to kill President Ross, and Sam trying to clear his name. Then it's about the US and Japan preparing to go to war over who has squad rights over the dead Celestial's body. And then finally at the end, it's Tim Blake Nelson's Samuel Stearns, aka the leader, trying to destroy Ross. You're supposed to believe that these plots are connected in some grand scheme by Tim Blake Nelson's character because his superpower is that he's really smart and he can predict everything in advance. Really, it's just poor writing. More than anything, the movie is actually a sequel to 2008's The Incredible Hulk. But I feel like that movie was so long ago that nobody in the theater even remembered who Tim Blake Nelson was supposed to be. The movie is nearly 20 years old and he's in it for only about 5 minutes. There should have been some flashbacks to remind people who he was. Nelson's look as the leader is terrible. It was a smart move for them to keep him hidden in darkness for most of his scenes. He's green with a deformed head that looks like moldy broccoli. He looks like a deranged version of the Jolly Green Giant. Everything that happened in the movie was supposed to be the leader's grand plan that was to get Ross mad enough that he'd morph into the Red Hulk. How? Stearns has been secretly drugging Ross with gamma radiation for years. Why? To have Ross turn into a monster to ruin his reputation and his relationship with his daughter, Betty. The leader is supposed to be so smart, yet this convoluted story is the best he could come up with? Why not just have Betty Ross killed instead? That'll send Everett Ross into a rage. Stearns says in the movie they wants Betty to hate Ross more, but that feels like something Marvel just wrote in to explain why Stearns doesn't kill her in the first place. Anthony Mackie does the best he can to carry this train wreck, but as an actor he just doesn't work as the serious hero. It's not his strength and he doesn't have the presence to be the straight man. He only really gets to shine in the movie during the few moments when Sam is allowed to be funny. Mackie works best when he has someone to banter with, but Wilson's sidekick, the new Falcon, just doesn't have good enough chemistry with Mackie to make their partnership work. Mackie handles the action scenes well enough, although Sam's abilities are completely inconsistent throughout the film. He's supposed to be a normal human being with no powers. At first he has fight scenes where he struggles with non-powered henchmen, then he has a fight scene where he has a knife and hatchet sticking out of his chest and it doesn't even faze him. By the end he's fighting Red Hulk and surviving direct hits. You can tell the movie had a ton of reshoots based on the way things were filmed, character roles, and various plot threads that are introduced and then pushed into the background all throughout the movie. It's obvious any scene with Giancarlo Esposito and Tim Blake Nelson is a reshoot. When they appear, they're always on camera by themselves. When they do share scenes with other actors, you can always tell that it's a stand-in because they only show the back of the other actor's head. There's also a character named Ruth, who's Ross's head of security, whose role was definitely cut down in reshoots. She probably weighs about 75 pounds and she's about the same height as Peter Dinklage. But she's able to throw on 250-pound guys like it's nothing. You find out in the movie that she's a Black Widow from Israel. You see a shot of her wearing a costume underneath her jacket, but she never actually suits up for a fight. She helps Sam and New Falcon a couple times, but then mostly disappears in the third act. Sebastian Stan returns as Bucky for one scene, probably another reshoot. When he appeared, it was the only time the crowd in the theater actually cheered. When he shows up, you see the immediate chemistry between him and Sam, and you finally see Mackie start to shine. Their one scene together is so good that you can't but wonder why Bucky wasn't a main character in the movie. He shows up to give Sam a pep talk, but then it makes no sense that Bucky would show up for one scene, and then disappear when the final fight happens in the movie right afterwards. At the end of his scene, Bucky says, "I gotta catch a plane." It just felt like Marvel adding in another line because they realized that people would expect him to show up in the final battle to help Sam, so they had to find a way to let the audience know he wasn't going to be there. Harrison Ford is probably the most entertaining performance of the movie, not that it's saying much. Lately, any time I see him in a movie, it feels like he could care less about being in it, but he has a few good moments in this film. They made his character unnecessarily dumb, though. Apparently he spent years taking pills that Stern's been making for him and he never once thought to check what's in them. And this is after he's had Stern in prison for nearly 20 years. The final fight between Sam and Red Hulk is entertaining, although it could have been so much better. The entire marketing of the film was focused on Sam and the Red Hulk fighting on the White House lawn. but the fight is actually brief and has a disappointing ending. It's completely unsatisfying. And all the stuff with Ross moaning about cherry blossoms, that is absolutely going to become a meme. I tried to find some positive things to say about this movie, but there aren't really any. This is a terrible movie. I thought Ant-Man 3 and The Marvels were rock bottom for the MCU, but this is a new low for a studio that's had several lows lately. And after this, I don't see how Disney just doesn't start firing all the top executives at Marvel. This movie irrevocably damages the Marvel brand and heads need to roll. Don't even bother going to see Captain America Brave New World.
You've got to do better.
Indeed.